Riley sat in the middle of the cereal aisle, staring at her wheelchair wheel like it had personally betrayed her. And in a way it had. The front wheel was completely jammed, refusing to budge no matter how hard she pushed. She'd been reaching for a box of granola on the top shelf when she heard that awful grinding sound. And now here she was, stuck between the organic oats and the sugar-filled kids' cereals. This wasn't how her Tuesday evening was supposed to go. She'd planned to grab groceries, head home, finish up a client project, and maybe watch that new show everyone was talking about. Instead, she was stranded in aisle 7 with a shopping cart full of items she hadn't paid for yet, and no clear way to get to the checkout. Riley had been using a wheelchair for almost 6 years now. A drunk driver had changed her life one rainy October night, and she'd spent months in physical therapy, learning how to navigate a world that suddenly felt completely different. But she'd adapted. She'd learned. She'd become independent again. Moments like this, though, they still stung. They reminded her that no matter how capable she became, sometimes the universe threw curveballs that had nothing to do with her abilities and everything to do with a stuck wheel and bad timing. She leaned forward, trying to see what was causing the problem. Something was definitely caught in the mechanism, but from her angle she couldn't quite reach it. She tried adjusting her position, but that only made things worse. The wheel groaned in protest. People walked past. Some glanced over with that look she knew too well, a mixture of pity and discomfort, like they wanted to help but had no idea how. Others pretended not to notice, suddenly very interested in the nutrition labels on cereal boxes they had no intention of buying. Riley didn't blame them. She understood the awkwardness. Not everyone knew what to do when they saw someone in a wheelchair having trouble. She pulled out her phone, ready to call her brother. He lived 20 minutes away, but he'd drop everything and come help. He always did. But before she could dial, she heard footsteps stop beside her. "Hey, would it help if I took a look at that?" Riley glanced up to find a man standing there, probably in his early 30s, wearing a navy blue work shirt with grease stains on the sleeves. His hands were clean, but his clothes told the story of someone who'd spent the day working with machinery. He had a grocery cart with the basics, bread, milk, and oddly enough, a small toolbox sitting right on top. "You carry tools to the grocery store?" Riley asked, raising an eyebrow. He laughed, a genuine sound that made the corners of his eyes crinkle. "Just picked them up from work. I run an auto shop across town and forgot to leave my box there." Lucky timing, I guess. Riley hesitated. She'd learned to be independent, almost stubbornly so. Accepting help sometimes felt like admitting defeat. But she was also practical. Her wheel was stuck. This guy seemed to know his way around mechanical problems, and she really did want to get home sometime tonight. "Yeah, okay," she said. "I think something's caught in there, but I can't quite reach it." The man nodded and set his cart aside. Without making a big show of it, he knelt down beside her wheelchair, tilting his head to examine the wheel from different angles. Riley watched him work, noticing how he didn't just grab at things randomly. He looked first, assessed the problem, then reached for his toolbox. "I'm Tom, by the way," he said, pulling out a small flashlight to peer into the wheel mechanism. "Riley. Nice to meet you, Riley. Okay, I see the problem. You've got a bolt that's worked itself loose, and it looks like a piece of fabric, maybe from your bag or your jacket, got wound around the axle. That's why it's completely locked up." Riley leaned over to look. Sure enough, a thread from her canvas shopping bag had somehow gotten tangled in there. "You've got to be kidding me." "Happens more than you'd think," Tom said, already working on loosening the bolt. "I once had a car come in because a plastic bag got wrapped around the drive shaft." Small things can cause big problems. As he worked, they talked. Tom asked what she did for work, and Riley told him about her graphic design business. She'd started it 2 years ago, working from home, creating logos and websites for small businesses. It gave her flexibility and let her work in comfortable surroundings, which mattered more some days than others. Tom shared that he'd inherited his father's auto repair shop 3 years ago. His dad had passed away suddenly, and Tom had left his job at a corporate garage to keep the family business alive. It was challenging, he admitted, but rewarding. He'd recently started doing more work on adaptive vehicles, helping people modify cars for hand controls and wheelchair accessibility. "There's not enough people doing that kind of work," Tom said, carefully unwinding the fabric from Riley's wheel. "And the folks who need it shouldn't have to drive 2 hours to the nearest specialist." Riley felt something shift in her chest. Most people either ignored her wheelchair entirely or made it the only thing they saw. Tom acknowledged it naturally, like it was just another detail about her, not her defining characteristic. "That's really cool," she said. "When I first got my chair, finding someone who could work on my van took forever. And when I finally found a place, they treated me like I was helpless." Tom glanced up at her and she saw understanding in his eyes. "Yeah, I've heard that a lot. People mean well, but they end up talking down to folks. My dad taught me that a person's a person, whether they're walking in or rolling in. You just treat everyone with respect and figure out how to help with what they actually need." He finished removing the tangled fabric and held it up. "Here's your culprit. Now let me tighten this bolt and check the other wheels while I'm at it." Riley watched as Tom methodically checked each wheel, tightening bolts, brushing away accumulated dust and debris. He pulled out a small bottle of lubricant from his toolbox and applied it to the bearings, explaining what he was doing as he went. "These wheels take a lot of abuse," he said. "Most people don't realize how much maintenance they need. You should lubricate the bearings every couple months, check the bolts regularly, and if you notice any wobbling or grinding, don't wait to get it checked out." "I usually do maintenance," Riley said, feeling a bit defensive. "This just came out of nowhere." "Oh, I'm not criticizing," Tom assured her quickly. "Stuff happens. That fabric could have gotten caught today. I'm just saying, general maintenance tips. Occupational hazard. I tend to give everyone advice about their wheels." Riley smiled despite herself. "Do you give this much attention to every stranger you meet in the grocery store?" Tom sat back on his heels, testing the wheel by spinning it gently. It moved smoothly, no grinding, no resistance. Only the ones who look like they're about to throw a cereal box at someone out of frustration. Riley laughed, surprised by the sound. "I was getting close to that point." Tom stood up, brushing off his knees. "All set. You should be good to go now. But seriously, if you ever need maintenance or if something feels off, bring it by the shop. I won't charge you. Consider it community service." He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. The card was simple, just the shop name, Chen's Auto Repair, with an address and phone number. Someone had crossed out Chen's and written Tom's above it in pen. "Haven't gotten around to ordering new cards yet," Tom explained, looking slightly embarrassed. "Still feels weird to change the name." Riley took the card, running her thumb over the handwritten correction. "Thank you, Tom, really, you didn't have to do all this." "I know," he said, picking up his cart. "But I wanted to. Take care, Riley." As he walked away, Riley sat there for a moment looking at the card in her hand. Then she tested her wheel, rolling forward and back. Perfect. Smooth as butter. She continued her shopping, but her mind kept drifting back to the man with the kind eyes and grease-stained shirt who'd knelt beside her wheelchair without hesitation, without pity, and fixed more than just a wheel. He'd fixed a moment that could have ruined her whole evening. 2 days later, Riley found herself staring at Tom's business card on her desk. She told herself it was practical. Her wheelchair could use a full checkup. It had nothing to do with wanting to see him again. Nothing at all. Riley pulled up to the auto shop on Thursday afternoon, telling herself for the 100th time that this was purely practical. Her wheelchair needed maintenance. Tom had offered. This was just being responsible. The fact that she'd changed her shirt 3 times before leaving had nothing to do with anything. The shop was tucked between a hardware store and a small diner, with 2 large garage bays and a modest office out front. A hand-painted sign read Tom's Auto Repair, formerly Chen's, in bold letters. Riley noticed the careful brushwork, the way someone had taken time to honor both names. A bell chimed as she rolled through the front door, which she was relieved to note had a ramp with perfect slope and grip tape. Tom emerged from the back, wiping his hands on a rag. His face lit up when he saw her. "Riley, you came by?" "You said the offer was open," she replied, suddenly feeling nervous. "I figured I'd take you up on it." "Absolutely. Let me just finish up with a customer and I'm all yours." He disappeared into the garage bay, and Riley could hear him talking to someone about brake pads and rotation schedules. She looked around the small waiting area. The chairs were a mismatched collection that somehow worked together, and there was a coffee maker in the corner that looked like it had been there since the 80s. Car magazines sat on a table next to a stack of books about adaptive vehicle technology. The walls had photos, Tom with an older man who must have been his father, both of them grinning in front of the shop. The resemblance was striking. Tom returned 15 minutes later. "Okay, I'm ready." Want to come back to the work area? I've got more space there. Riley followed him through the garage where a sedan was up on the lift and tools hung in organized rows on the walls. Tom had cleared a space near a workbench, and she noticed he'd laid down clean mats so her wheels wouldn't pick up oil or grime. "So," Tom said, putting on a pair of work gloves, "when's the last time you had a full maintenance check?" "Honestly, about 8 months ago. I usually do basic stuff myself, but I've been putting off the bigger maintenance." "Understandable. Let's see what we're working with." Tom knelt beside her chair, and Riley was struck again by how natural he made it seem. No awkwardness, no hesitation. He just got to work. He examined each wheel systematically, checking the tire pressure, inspecting the treads, testing the bearings. He looked at the brake system, the frame joints, even the seat cushion attachments. As he worked, he explained what he was finding like he was doing a regular vehicle inspection. "Your left rear wheel is wearing unevenly," he said. "Might need to adjust the alignment. And these bearings are pretty dry. How long have you had this chair?" "About 4 years. It's my second one since the accident." Tom nodded, making notes on a pad. "They're built to last, but they need love just like any other machine. You take care of it, it takes care of you." As he continued working, they fell into easy conversation. Riley asked about the shop, and Tom told her about his father's legacy, how the old man had built his reputation on honest work and fair prices, how he'd taught Tom that every customer deserved respect, whether they were driving a beat-up truck or a brand-new luxury car. "He sounds like he was a good man," Riley said softly. "The best." Tom's voice carried weight. "I miss him every day. But keeping this place running, it feels like he's still here, you know?" Riley understood that feeling. After her accident, she'd held on to pieces of her old life even as she built a new one. Her sketchbooks from before, her favorite coffee mug, the playlist she'd been listening to that night. Small things that anchored her to who she'd been while she figured out who she was becoming. Tom moved on to checking the frame, running his hands along the tubing, looking for stress fractures or weak points. "You do any sports, basketball, racing, anything like that?" "Not really. I thought about trying wheelchair tennis once, but I'm more of an indoor person. I do yoga though, adaptive yoga. It's pretty great." "That's cool. I bet it helps with strength and flexibility." Tom applied lubricant to the wheel bearings, his movements practiced and efficient. "I've been thinking about offering yoga classes at the community center, adaptive ones, I mean, but I have no idea how to get that started." "There are organizations that train instructors," Riley said. "I could send you some links if you want." "Yeah? That'd be awesome, thanks." They talked about her design work next. Tom was genuinely interested, asking questions about her process, what kind of clients she worked with. Riley found herself telling him about a recent project, a logo for a bakery that wanted something modern but warm. She'd gone through 12 drafts before nailing it. 12? Tom laughed. "And I thought I was particular about getting things right." "Hey, good work takes time," Riley shot back, smiling. "Can't argue with that." Tom finished with the wheels and moved to inspect the armrests and footrests. "These mechanisms can get loose over time. You having any trouble with adjustments?" "The left armrest sticks sometimes." Tom examined it, then pulled out a small file from his toolbox. He carefully smoothed down a burr in the metal that was catching. "That should fix it. Try it now." Riley tested the armrest. It moved smoothly, no catching. "Perfect." As Tom worked, Riley watched him. She noticed the careful attention he paid to every detail, the way he didn't rush even though she knew he had other work waiting. Most mechanics she'd dealt with seemed annoyed when she brought in her wheelchair, like it was an inconvenience. Tom treated it like any other vehicle that mattered. "Can I ask you something?" Riley said. "Sure. Why do you do this? The adaptive vehicle work, I mean. It can't be the most profitable part of your business." Tom sat back, considering the question. "You're right, it's not. But my dad always said a business isn't just about profit. It's about serving your community. And there's this whole group of people who need reliable vehicle modifications and maintenance, but they get charged crazy prices or treated like they're a burden." He shrugged. "I can help, so I do." Something in Riley's chest tightened. That's rare. Most people don't think that way. More should, Tom said simply. He stood up, brushing off his knees. Okay, I think we're done here. Your chair's in good shape overall. Just needed some adjustment and lubrication. You should be set for another few months. Riley didn't want to leave yet. The shop felt comfortable, and Tom's company felt even better. So, how much do I owe you? I told you, no charge. Tom, you just spent almost an hour working on my chair, and I said it was community service. I meant it. He must have seen the protest forming on her face because he held up a hand. Tell you what, if you really want to pay me back, answer a question. What question? Tom looked nervous suddenly, shifting his weight. Would you maybe want to grab coffee sometime, like not here, somewhere else with me? Riley's heart did a little flip. Are you asking me on a date? Yeah, Tom said, meeting her eyes. I am, and if you're not interested, that's totally fine. No pressure. But I think you're interesting and funny, and I'd like to get to know you better, if you're open to that. For a moment, Riley's old fears tried to surface. The voice that said guys like Tom didn't really want to date women in wheelchairs, that this was pity or curiosity. But then she looked at him, really looked at him, and saw nothing but genuine hope in his expression. No pity, no awkwardness. Just a guy who'd met someone he liked and was brave enough to say so. I'd like that, Riley heard herself say. Coffee sounds good. Tom's smile was worth every bit of nervousness. Yeah? That's great. There's this place downtown, Riverside Cafe. They have this outdoor patio right by the water. It's accessible, good coffee, better pastries. You've checked the accessibility? I always do, Tom said. Part of how I think now, I guess. They exchanged numbers and Tom walked her out to her van. He didn't hover or try to help unless she asked, just stayed present. As Riley used her lift to get into the driver's seat, Tom loaded her wheelchair into the back for her. So I'll text you, he said. Maybe this weekend? I'll be waiting. Riley drove home with butterflies in her stomach and a smile she couldn't quite suppress. When she got back to her apartment, she immediately called her best friend. You're not going to believe what just happened, Riley said. Her friend listened to the whole story, then squealed loud enough that Riley had to pull the phone away from her ear. This is amazing. When's the date? We haven't set a time yet. He's going to text me. Okay, but how's he doing with the whole wheelchair thing? That's the thing, Riley said slowly, realizing it as she spoke. He's not doing anything with it. He just treats it like it's part of me. Not the most important part, not something to ignore, just part of the whole picture. That's how it should be, her friend said firmly. I know. But it's rare to find someone who gets that without you having to explain it. They talked for another hour, planning potential outfits, discussing whether the first date would go well. All the normal excited chatter of someone about to step into something new. After they hung up, Riley sat at her desk, looking at Tom's contact information in her phone. She thought about how they'd met, how a broken wheel in a grocery store aisle had led to this moment. How many times had she been frustrated by her chair, by the limitations it sometimes imposed? But tonight, she felt something different. Gratitude, maybe. Or just the strange way life worked sometimes, bringing people together in unexpected moments. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Hey, it's Tom from the shop. Just wanted to make sure this number worked. Also wanted to say I'm really glad you came by today. Riley smiled and typed back. Me too. And thanks again for the maintenance. My chair's never run better. Anytime. So, Saturday afternoon? Around 2? Perfect. See you then. Riley set her phone down and stared at the ceiling, feeling the flutter of possibility in her chest. She'd learned to be cautious over the years to protect herself from disappointment. But sometimes, she thought, maybe it was okay to let someone in, to see what happened when you stopped trying to control everything and just let life unfold. Saturday suddenly felt very far away. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too hot. with a gentle breeze that made Riley glad she'd chosen to wear her favorite blue cardigan. She'd spent way too long getting ready, changing outfits, fixing her hair, then deliberately messing it up a bit so it didn't look like she'd tried too hard, even though she had. She definitely had. The Riverside Cafe was exactly as Tom had described. A charming brick building with large windows and an outdoor patio that stretched along the water. Riley noticed immediately that the entrance had a proper ramp, not some afterthought steep incline, but an actual well-designed ramp with railings. The patio was spacious, with tables set far enough apart that she could navigate easily. Tom was already there, sitting at a table near the railing where they'd have a view of the water. He stood when he saw her, and Riley noticed he'd clearly made an effort too. Clean jeans, a nice button-down shirt, hair still slightly damp like he'd showered right before coming. It made her feel less self-conscious about her own preparations. "Hey," he said, his smile warm and slightly nervous. "You found it okay?" "GPS works pretty well these days," Riley teased, rolling up to the table. She was relieved to see he'd chosen a table that didn't have a fixed bench, just chairs he'd already moved aside to make space for her. They ordered coffee and pastries from a server who was friendly without being overwhelming. Tom got a black coffee and a chocolate croissant. Riley chose a latte and a blueberry scone. While they waited, they sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching boats drift past on the river. "This is nice," Riley said. "I don't get down here as much as I should." "I come here sometimes on Sunday mornings," Tom admitted. "Usually with a book. It's peaceful." "What kind of books?" "Lately, mystery novels. Nothing too serious. After a week of dealing with engine problems and customer complaints, I like stories where everything gets solved by the last page." Riley laughed. "I get that. I've been reading fantasy novels. Give me dragons and magic over reality any day." Their order arrived, and they fell into the kind of conversation that flows naturally when two people genuinely want to know each other. Tom asked about her design work, and Riley found herself talking about a project she was really excited about. Creating a brand identity for a nonprofit that helped kids with disabilities access sports programs. "The founder reached out to me specifically because I use a wheelchair," Riley explained. "She wanted someone who understood the community. It's been challenging but really rewarding." "That's incredible," Tom said, and she could tell he meant it. "What's been the challenging part?" "Honestly, trying to represent the disability community without making it all about disability. These kids are athletes. They're competitive. They're talented. But you also can't ignore the adaptive aspect because that's literally what the program does." Riley took a sip of her latte. "It's a balance," Tom nodded thoughtfully. "I think I get that. Like with my adaptive vehicle work, I'm modifying cars for people with disabilities. But at the end of the day, everyone just wants a reliable car that works for them. The disability part is just one piece of solving the problem." "Exactly." Riley felt a rush of recognition. "You understand." They talked for 2 hours straight. The conversation moved from work to family to childhood memories. Tom told her about growing up in the shop, learning to change oil before he could ride a bike. Riley shared stories about her childhood obsession with art, how she'd covered every surface of her room with drawings until her parents finally gave up and just let her have at it. "My mom still has some of them," Riley said. "She framed the terrible ones. Says they're her favorites." "That's sweet though," Tom said. "My dad kept every Father's Day card I ever made him. Even the one from 2nd grade where I accidentally spelled it Farter's Day." Riley snorted into her coffee. "You did not." "I absolutely did." He thought it was hilarious. Showed it to everyone who came into the shop for years. They laughed together, and Riley realized how easy this felt. How natural. She'd been on dates since her accident, but there was always this underlying tension. Guys either treated her disability like an elephant in the room that couldn't be mentioned, or they made it the entire focus of conversation, asking invasive questions or treating her like she was brave just for existing. Tom did neither. He acknowledged her wheelchair when relevant and ignored it when it wasn't. He treated her like a person. "Whole and complete. Can I ask you something?" Tom said, his tone shifting slightly. "And feel free to tell me if I'm out of line." "Go ahead. The accident that led to you using a wheelchair, do you mind talking about it? Because we can absolutely not go there if you don't want to." Riley appreciated the question, the way he gave her control over the topic. "I don't mind. It was 6 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. I was in the hospital for months, had multiple surgeries. The doctors said I might walk again with enough physical therapy, but honestly, after a while I realized I was okay if I didn't. This is my life now. And it's a good life. Tom listened without interrupting, without the pity face she'd seen so many times. I'm sorry that happened to you, he said simply, but I'm glad you found peace with where you are. It took time, Riley admitted. And therapy. Lots of therapy? But yeah, I'm good now. Most days I don't even think about the accident. I'm just living my life. That's all any of us can do. They ordered more coffee, neither of them ready for the afternoon to end. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Favorite movies, terrible TV shows they were embarrassed to love, the best pizza toppings, and ongoing debate that got surprisingly heated. Pineapple belongs on pizza, Riley insisted. It's sweet and savory. It works. It's a crime against Italian food, Tom countered, but he was grinning. You're a pizza purist. Someone has to maintain standards. A group of ducks waddled past their table, clearly looking for handouts. Riley broke off a piece of her scone and tossed it to them, watching as they scrambled for it. You're going to create a duck mob, Tom warned. I'm okay with that. Ducks are underrated. Noted, you're pro-duck. And pro-pineapple pizza. Nobody's perfect, Tom said, and Riley threw her napkin at him. As the afternoon wore into early evening, Riley realized she didn't want to leave. She felt comfortable here with Tom, in a way she hadn't felt with someone new in a long time. There was no pressure, no performance, just two people enjoying each other's company. I should probably let you get home, Tom said reluctantly, checking his watch, though I really don't want to. Me neither, Riley admitted. Could we do this again? Maybe dinner next time? I'd like that. Tom walked her to her van, and this time Riley noticed how he matched her pace naturally, not rushing ahead or lagging behind. He helped her load her wheelchair without making it a big production, just a casual gesture of assistance. I had a really good time today, Tom said, leaning against her van. Like really good. Me too. They looked at each other for a moment, and Riley wondered if he was going to kiss her. Part of her hoped he would, but Tom just smiled, squeezed her hand gently, and stepped back. Text me when you get home safe. You too. Riley drove home with music playing, singing along badly and not caring. When she got to her apartment, she texted Tom immediately. Home safe. Thanks for a perfect afternoon. His response came quickly. Thank you for saying yes to coffee. Already looking forward to dinner. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a pattern. Dinner dates, lunch dates, morning coffee before Tom opened the shop. They texted throughout the day, sharing random thoughts and photos. Tom sent her pictures of interesting cars that came into the shop. Riley sent him works in progress from her design projects. They discovered more things they had in common. Both loved old movies from the 40s and 50s. Both were terrible at cooking but great at ordering takeout. Both had complicated relationships with their families, loved but occasionally exhausting. Tom met Riley's brother one evening when he stopped by to help her move furniture. Her brother had been protective at first, clearly sizing Tom up, but Riley watched as Tom won him over with easy conversation and genuine respect for Riley's independence. He seems like a good guy, her brother admitted later. Just don't tell him I said that. Riley met Tom's mother during a Sunday family dinner. She was a warm woman with Tom's same kind eyes, and she welcomed Riley without hesitation. She asked questions about Riley's work, admired photos of her designs, and treated her exactly like she would any person her son brought home. I like her, Tom's mother told him later, loud enough for Riley to hear from the kitchen. She's smart. Don't mess this up, Mom, Tom protested, but he was laughing. One evening, about 2 months into dating, Riley and Tom were sitting in her apartment watching a movie. Tom was on the couch and Riley had transferred from her wheelchair to sit beside him. It had become natural, this casual intimacy. His arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. During a boring part of the movie, Tom said quietly, I really like you, Riley. Riley tilted her head to look up at him. I really like you too. I really like you. Like this isn't casual for me. I don't know if it is for you, but I wanted you to know where I stand. Riley's heart squeezed. It's not casual for me either. Tom's expression softened with relief. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and Riley felt something click into place. This feeling of rightness, of being exactly where she was supposed to be. When they pulled apart, Tom rested his forehead against hers. "I know we're still figuring this out, but I wanted you to know. You're important to me." "You're important to me, too," Riley whispered. They went back to watching the movie, but Riley couldn't focus on the screen. She was too busy thinking about how a broken wheel in a grocery store had led to this moment. How sometimes the universe worked in mysterious ways, bringing people together when they least expected it. Later that night, after Tom had gone home, Riley sat at her desk, looking at a photo he'd texted her earlier. It was the two of them at the cafe, taken by a friendly stranger. They were both laughing at something, caught in a moment of pure joy. Riley saved it as her phone background and smiled. Whatever this was becoming, she was ready for it. Everything was going perfectly. Too perfectly. Riley had learned not to trust perfect. Life had taught her that lesson 6 years ago, when a drunk driver turned her world upside down. So when things with Tom felt easy and natural and right, part of her kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Wednesday afternoon. Riley was at Tom's shop, sitting in the waiting area and working on her laptop while he finished up with a customer. They'd fallen into this comfortable routine where she'd sometimes work from his shop, enjoying the background noise and his company during breaks. She was deep into designing a logo when the bell above the door chimed. A woman walked in, tall, athletic, with long dark hair and the kind of easy confidence that came from never having to think about accessibility ramps or whether a bathroom stall was wide enough. She wore yoga pants and a fitted jacket, looking like she'd just come from a workout or was heading to one. "Tom," the woman called out, walking straight past Riley like she wasn't there. Tom emerged from the garage and Riley saw his expression change. Surprise, discomfort, something else she couldn't quite read. "Lindsay," he said, "what are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by and say hi." The woman, Lindsay, smiled warmly at him. "It's been a while." "Yeah, it has." Riley watched the interaction, feeling something cold settle in her stomach. The way Lindsay moved around the shop like she'd been there before. The familiar way she said Tom's name. The slight awkwardness in Tom's posture. "I wanted to see how you were doing," Lindsay continued. "I heard about your dad. I'm sorry I never reached out. It's okay. That was a while ago now." Riley cleared her throat and both of them turned to look at her. Tom's face cleared immediately and he walked over to her. "Riley, this is Lindsay. We used to date. Lindsay, this is Riley, my girlfriend." The word girlfriend sent a little thrill through Riley even in the midst of her discomfort. They hadn't officially used that label yet, though they'd been exclusive for weeks. "Oh," Lindsay said, and Riley caught the flicker of surprise in her eyes as they moved to Riley's wheelchair. "Hi, nice to meet you." "You too," Riley said, keeping her voice even. There was an awkward pause. Lindsay shifted her weight, clearly not sure what to say now. Tom stood next to Riley, his hand resting on her shoulder, a gesture that felt protective and possessive in a way that usually would have made Riley happy. Today it just reminded her of the difference between her and this woman, who could walk in here on legs that worked, who shared a history with Tom that Riley would never be part of. "Well, I should get going," Lindsay said finally. "It was good seeing you, Tom. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime? Catch up properly?" "Maybe," Tom said noncommittally. "Take care, Lindsay." After she left, Tom turned to Riley. "That was unexpected." "Your ex?" Riley said. "Yeah. We dated for about a year. Ended things maybe 2 years ago. It wasn't a bad breakup, just wasn't working out." Riley nodded, trying to ignore the thoughts spiraling through her head. Lindsay was beautiful. Lindsay could walk. Lindsay probably didn't need help with half the things Riley did. Lindsay could go hiking with Tom, could dance with him at weddings, could do all the things that Riley's wheelchair made complicated or impossible. "You okay?" Tom asked, concern in his voice. "Yeah, fine. Just surprised, but she wasn't fine." For the rest of the afternoon, Riley couldn't shake the image of Lindsay walking into that shop like she belonged there. She tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept wandering to dangerous places, comparing herself to a woman she didn't know, wondering if Tom secretly wished things had worked out with someone who didn't come with the complications Riley brought to the relationship. That evening, Riley went home and did something she knew was unhealthy, but couldn't stop herself from doing. She looked up Lindsay on social media, found her easily. Lindsay was a physical therapist who ran marathons and did triathlons. Her photos were full of mountain hikes, rock climbing trips, adventure travel. Everything looked effortless and free. Riley closed her laptop and transferred to her bed, staring at the ceiling. She'd been so careful not to let insecurity creep into this relationship. She'd worked hard to be confident in who she was, wheelchair and all. But seeing Lindsay had cracked something open, let all her fears come rushing in. What if Tom realized he wanted someone who could keep up with him physically? What if he got tired of having to think about accessibility everywhere they went? What if he woke up one day and regretted choosing someone whose life came with extra complications? Over the next few days, Riley pulled back without fully realizing she was doing it. She canceled dinner plans, claiming work deadlines. She kept her texts short. When Tom suggested going to a new restaurant, she made excuses. She could hear the confusion in his voice when they talked, but she couldn't seem to stop herself from creating distance. A week after the Lindsay encounter, Tom showed up at Riley's apartment unannounced. She almost didn't answer the door, but he knocked persistently. "Riley, I know you're home. Your van's outside. Please let me in." She opened the door to find him standing there, worry and frustration written across his face. "We need to talk," he said. "I'm not really up for talking right now." "Too bad, because I'm not leaving until you tell me what's going on. You've been avoiding me for a week and I don't understand why." Riley wanted to close the door, retreat back into her safe space where she didn't have to face her feelings, but Tom's expression stopped her. He looked hurt and she realized she'd been hurting him with her withdrawal. "Come in," she said quietly. They sat in her living room. Tom on the couch, Riley in her wheelchair because she hadn't transferred yet. The distance between them felt bigger than it should. "Talk to me," Tom said gently. "What happened? Was it Lindsay showing up? Because I swear I had no idea she was going to do that." Riley took a deep breath. "It's not about her specifically." "Then what?" "She's what you could have," Riley said, the words tumbling out. "Someone who can go running with you, who doesn't need ramps and accessible bathrooms. Someone whose life isn't complicated by a wheelchair." Tom stared at her. "Are you serious right now?" "I saw her social media, Tom. She does triathlons. She climbs mountains. I can't do any of that." "I don't do any of that either." Tom's voice rose with frustration. "Riley, I hate running. I think climbing mountains sounds terrible. Just because Lindsay does those things doesn't mean I want to. But you could if you wanted to. With her you could. I don't want to." Tom stood up, running his hand through his hair. "Riley, I broke up with Lindsay because we didn't fit. She wanted someone who'd train for marathons with her and go on these intense adventure trips. That's not me. I like quiet weekends and old movies and working in my shop. The same things I like with you." Riley felt tears prick her eyes. "I just keep thinking that eventually you're going to realize how much easier things would be with someone who doesn't use a wheelchair." Tom knelt down in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. "Listen to me. You're not a complication. Yes, we sometimes have to think about accessibility, so what? That's part of being with you and I don't mind it. Do you think I'm with you because I don't notice your wheelchair? I don't know. I'm with you because you're smart and funny and talented. Because you make me laugh. Because you get excited about design projects and you can argue about pizza toppings for 20 minutes. Because being around you feels right." Tom squeezed her hands. "The wheelchair is part of you, but it's not why I'm here or not here. I'm here because of who you are." A tear slipped down Riley's cheek. "I'm scared. Of what? Of you waking up one day and regretting this?" "Regretting me?" Tom's expression softened. "Riley, I can't promise I'll never regret anything in my life. But I can promise that being with you isn't something I'll regret. You're not a burden. You're not a complication I'm tolerating. You're the person I want to be with. Even though I can't do everything other people can. Nobody can do everything. Everyone has limitations. Yours are just more visible than some people's." Tom brushed away her tears with his thumb. "I have limitations too. I'm terrible at expressing my feelings. I work too much. I eat cereal for dinner more often than I should. We all come with stuff, Riley. Yours just happens to include a wheelchair." Riley let out a shaky laugh. "You do eat a lot of cereal, see? Major flaw." They sat in silence for a moment, Tom still kneeling beside her chair, holding her hands. "I'm sorry," Riley said finally, "for pulling away. For not talking to you about this. I get it. I mean, I don't fully get it because I'm not in your position. But I understand being scared. Relationships are scary. Letting someone in is scary." Tom stood up and sat next to her on the couch. "But Riley, you have to let me in. All the way in. Including the scared parts. I'm working on it. I know. And I'm not going anywhere while you do. Riley transferred from her chair to the couch. Curling up against Tom, he wrapped his arms around her, and she felt some of the tension leave her body. For the record, Tom said after a while, I thought Lindsay was going to ask me out again. That's why I introduced you as my girlfriend. Wanted to make it clear where I stood. You called me your girlfriend, is that okay? We hadn't really made it official, but it felt right. Riley smiled against his chest. It's more than okay. They spent the rest of the evening talking through Riley's fears, her worries about being enough. Tom listened patiently, occasionally pushing back when she was being too hard on herself. He shared his own fears too, about not being what Riley needed, about messing up this relationship that mattered so much to him. I think we're both scared of losing this, Riley said. Which probably means it's worth fighting for, Tom replied. As the evening grew late, Tom made them dinner, which consisted of ordering pizza, pineapple for Riley and pepperoni for himself, and they watched a movie together. The easy comfort between them had returned, strengthened somehow by having survived their first real conflict. Before Tom left, he kissed Riley at the door, long and sweet. No more hiding from me, he said. No more hiding, Riley agreed. After he left, Riley sat with her thoughts. She knew her insecurities wouldn't disappear overnight. 6 years of navigating the world in a wheelchair had created defense mechanisms that wouldn't dissolve just because Tom said the right things. But tonight had shown her something important. Tom wasn't going to run when things got hard. He was willing to work through the difficult conversations, to push past her walls, to fight for them, and maybe, just maybe, she could learn to trust that. 1 year after that day in the grocery store, Riley woke up to her phone buzzing with a text from Tom. Can you come to the animal shelter today around 2? I have something to show you. Riley smiled at her phone. Tom had been acting mysterious all week, deflecting her questions with vague answers and that mischievous grin she'd come to know well. She'd learned to go along with his surprises. They were always thoughtful, never overwhelming. Should I be worried? She texted back. Only if you hate puppies and happiness. Well, I love both those things, so I guess I'm safe. The local animal shelter was a place Riley volunteered at twice a month, helping with their social media and graphic design work. She'd taken Tom there a few months into their relationship, and he'd fallen in love with the place immediately. Now he was there almost as often as she was, helping with repairs and maintenance that the shelter couldn't afford to pay for. When Riley arrived that afternoon, she noticed cars filling the parking lot, way more than usual for a Saturday. Colorful banners hung from the building, and she could hear music playing from somewhere in the back. She rolled through the front entrance, confused and curious. The shelter director, Mrs. Patterson, greeted her with a huge smile. Riley, Tom's been waiting for you. He's out back. What's going on? You'll see. Go on. Head out there. Riley made her way through the shelter, noticing small changes as she went. The hallways seemed wider somehow. The doorways, too. When she reached the back door that led to the outdoor play area, she understood why. The entire space had been transformed. Where there used to be uneven ground and steps, there were now smooth ramps with perfect inclines. The play areas had been redesigned with accessible pathways. There were lowered water fountains and feeding stations, modified benches where someone in a wheelchair could sit comfortably next to the animals. Everything had been thought through, designed to make the space welcoming for people with mobility challenges. Tom stood in the middle of it all, surrounded by families. Riley rolled closer and realized these weren't just any families. Several of the adults and children used wheelchairs or other mobility devices. Kids were playing with puppies on the accessible mats. Parents in wheelchairs were able to easily move around and interact with the animals. Everyone was laughing, smiling, completely engaged. Tom spotted her and walked over. His face lit up with pride and nervous energy. What is this? Riley asked, her voice catching. It's an accessible adoption event, Tom explained. I've been working with Mrs. Patterson for months on this. We redesigned the outdoor space to be fully accessible, and we invited families from the community who might not normally come to the shelter because it's hard to navigate. Riley looked around, taking it all in. A little girl in a purple wheelchair was giggling as a golden retriever puppy licked her face. A man with crutches sat comfortably on one of the modified benches, a cat purring in his lap. Parents who clearly dealt with accessibility issues daily were moving freely through the space without obstacles. Tom, this is incredible. It gets better. Mrs. Patterson agreed to keep all these modifications permanent, and we're going to do quarterly accessible adoption events now. I've been talking to other shelters in the area too, helping them think about accessibility in their spaces. Riley felt tears building. You did all this? Well, I had help. Got some volunteers from the community. Your brother actually helped with the construction, and I may have stolen some of your design ideas from conversations we've had about accessibility. I can't believe you kept this secret. Tom took her hand. I wanted it to be special. You're always talking about how design can make spaces more inclusive. I wanted to see that in action. And I wanted you to see that what you advocate for matters. It changes lives. Riley watched as a mother in a wheelchair was able to walk her daughter through the puppy area without struggling, without having to ask for help, without barriers. The joy on both their faces was everything. This is one of the most thoughtful things anyone's ever done, Riley said softly. You inspire me, Tom said simply. You've taught me to see the world differently, to notice when spaces exclude people, to understand that good design is inclusive design. This is as much your project as it is mine. They spent the afternoon at the event, watching families connect with animals, seeing the shelter's adoption numbers climb. Mrs. Patterson couldn't stop thanking Tom, and several families approached Riley when they learned she'd been part of the inspiration, thanking her for advocating for accessibility. As the event wound down and families left with new pets, Tom and Riley found themselves alone in the peaceful space he'd created. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the modified play areas. Can we talk for a minute? Tom asked, and something in his tone made Riley's heart speed up. Of course. Tom knelt down beside her wheelchair, the same position where their story had started a year ago, except this time it was deliberate, meaningful. Riley, this past year has been the best of my life. You've challenged me, inspired me, made me laugh, and made me want to be better. You've shown me what it means to navigate the world with strength and grace, even when the world isn't designed for you. Riley's hand started shaking. Tom, I'm not done, he said, smiling. Before I met you, I was just going through motions. Running the shop, getting by, but not really living. You woke something up in me. You made me care about things bigger than myself. You taught me that love isn't about finding someone who makes life easier. It's about finding someone who makes life matter. He pulled a small box from his pocket and Riley's breath caught. I know we've had hard conversations about the future, about what your wheelchair means for us practically. But Riley, I've never been more sure of anything. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up next to you. I want to fight about pizza toppings and watch terrible movies and grow old together. Tom opened the box. Inside was a ring with a unique design, a small wheel pattern engraved into the band, beautiful and symbolic. I had it custom made, Tom said. The wheel is a reminder of how we met, but also a promise that I'll always be there to help when you need it, to roll beside you when you don't, and to keep moving forward together. Tears were streaming down Riley's face now. Tom, yes. Yes, of course, yes. Tom slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he stood up and kissed her, deep and full of promise, while the sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. They held each other for a long moment, and Riley felt the weight of everything that had brought them here. The broken wheel that started it all. The coffee dates and conversations. The fears she'd had to work through. The way Tom had shown up again and again, proving that he was in this for real. I love you, Riley whispered against his shoulder. I love you too, Tom replied, so much. Over the next few months, they planned a wedding that reflected both of them. They chose a venue with perfect accessibility, not just ramps, but thoughtful design throughout. Riley's brother walked her down the aisle, and when she reached Tom, she transferred from her chair to stand with support for their vows, something she'd been working on with her physical therapist. But for their first dance, she stayed in her chair, and Tom held her hands as they moved together, proving that dancing didn't require 2 feet, just 2 people who wanted to move through life together. Tom's shop continued to grow, with the adaptive vehicle work becoming a bigger part of the business. Riley helped him redesign the website and create marketing materials that reached the disability community effectively. She continued her design work, taking on more projects focused on accessibility and inclusion. They bought a house together, one that was already accessible, but that they modified further to make it perfectly theirs. Tom built Riley a studio space where she could work on her designs, with everything at the right height and easy to navigate. Riley helped Tom create a home workshop where he could tinker with projects. 2 years after their wedding, they started hosting monthly dinners for people in the disability community and their partners, creating a space where folks could share experiences, resources, and support. Tom's shop became known as the place to go for adaptive vehicle work, and he trained other mechanics in the area to do the same. But beyond all the projects and accomplishments, what mattered most was what they built together every day, a partnership based on respect, understanding, and genuine love. Tom never stopped seeing Riley as a complete person, never treated her wheelchair as a barrier between them. And Riley learned to trust that Tom's love wasn't conditional, wasn't going to disappear when things got hard. They had their fights, like any couple, disagreements about money, about family, about whose turn it was to do the dishes. But they'd learned how to work through conflict, how to communicate even when it was uncomfortable. On their 3rd anniversary, they were back at the Riverside Cafe where they'd had their first date. The same table by the water, the same peaceful view. "You know what I think about sometimes?" Riley said, sipping her latte. "What's that?" "That grocery store. That day my wheel got stuck. If you'd walked past like everyone else, if you hadn't stopped to help, none of this would exist." Tom reached across the table and took her hand. "I think we would have found each other somehow. Maybe not that day, maybe not that way, but I believe some people are meant to find each other." "You really think that?" "I do, but I'm also really glad it happened the way it did. I love telling people that I fixed the wheel on your chair and rolled straight into your heart." Riley laughed. "That's so cheesy, but true." They sat in comfortable silence, watching boats drift by, the same peaceful scene they'd enjoyed 3 years ago. But everything was different now. They weren't two people getting to know each other, nervous and hopeful. They were partners building a life together, facing challenges as a team. "Thank you," Riley said suddenly. "For what?" "For seeing me, all of me. Not just the wheelchair, not just despite the wheelchair, for seeing the whole person and choosing to stay." Tom squeezed her hand. "Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with your heart even when you were scared. For teaching me what real strength looks like." As the sun set over the river, Riley thought about all the broken wheels in her life, literal and metaphorical, the challenges she'd faced, the obstacles she'd overcome. Some of those broken wheels had been devastating, but one broken wheel in a grocery store aisle had led her here. To this moment, to this person who loved her completely. Sometimes, Riley thought, the universe breaks things just so it can bring the right people together to fix them. And sometimes what gets fixed isn't just a wheel or a mechanical problem. Sometimes what gets fixed is the belief that you have to face the world alone, that no one will truly understand. That love has to be simple to be real. Tom had taught her that love could be complicated and real, that it could involve ramps and accessible bathrooms and thoughtful planning, and still be the most natural thing in the world. That the right person doesn't make your challenges disappear. They just face them with you, rolling beside you, fixing what's broken, and building something beautiful together. As they left the cafe that evening, Riley's wheelchair rolled smoothly across the perfect ramp, and Tom walked beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, partners in every sense of the word, moving forward together, one revolution of the wheels at a time.